Hi, we are going to do a wax resist watercolor painting. I have an example on the right hand side of the screen of a wax resist watercolor painting that I have recently completed, and I was inspired by the work on the left hand side of the screen, which is called Castle with Sun by an artist named Paul Klee. Hopefully you can see that I tried to show some of the things that he included in his work. For instance, he has a bridge right here leading into his castle. So I added a bridge on mine leading into my castle. He has lots of 2D geometric shapes like squares and triangles to show all of the little houses inside of the castle. I did the same thing. He has some very tall rectangles to represent the tall towers on the castle, and I did the very same thing. I also have added some zigzags to be grass or maybe bushes outside of the castle, or you can think about them as triangles. So let's start one today. Again, the work we've been looking at is by the artist Paul Klee, Castle with Sun. And this is a great example of abstract art. Say abstract. Imagination. Abstract. Imagination. Abstract. Imagination. Abstract. Imagination. Well, let's start. Everybody is going to get a piece of poster board. Please find the side with the X. Point to the X and use any color crayon to write your name there. Please use your neatest handwriting. Once you write your name, you can turn your paper over. That's going to be on the back. And we're going to start drawing the outlines for our shapes on our castle today. Now, it's really important for everybody to realize wherever you put your crayon, the paint will not stick. That's what wax resist means. Crayons are made of wax. So when we draw on our paper with this crayon, it's going to create a space for our paint to stay. I'm going to start by doing a wavy line across the bottom. This is going to represent some water in front of my castle. You don't have to do that wavy line, but if you'd like to, you're welcome to. And then I want to show a horizontal line that is flat like a table, and that will be where my castle starts. So now that I've established where the front of my castle is, I'm going to add in some squares. We learned that inside of a castle you might have lots of small houses where people that work at the castle live, and then you probably have a really big place where the king lives. I'm going to add some triangles to the top of those squares to stand for my small houses inside of my castle. Now you are welcome to pick whatever kind of shapes you like and add those to your work. You do not have to copy my work. But I want you to make sure you look back at Paul Klee's drawing of Castle with Sun and get some ideas from there also. Alright, even though the bottom of that triangle touches the square, I'm going to draw another line because, like I said, that wax is going to act like a fence and keep the paint inside of that shape. But make sure that you add in a few tall towers. Most castles have some tall towers that people can look all around the land. So I'm going to add a couple of those tall towers in on mine. I want to make sure I draw that line at the very edge. Now, you don't have to do a pattern with your shapes. In fact, I think you'll find when you look at Paul Klee's Castle with Sun, there's not really a pattern there. But sometimes you might see some shapes repeated or some colors repeated. I really like this bridge that he did at the front of his castle, so I'm going to add one to mine too. All my lines are going to be super straight. Geometric shapes are shapes like squares and rectangles and triangles and pentagons. They have a set number of corners and a certain number of sides that they will always have. And so when we're doing geometric type art, like this type of abstract art, we should be drawing very angular lines, sharp corners, not many curvy or wavy lines. I want to make sure that I add a sun on mine. So, you could make a moon if you want. You don't even have to have a sun. But since we were studying the work castle with sun, I thought it would be nice to add a big sun up here in the sky on mine. Now guys, notice I haven't colored any of my shapes in. That's really important because I'm going to come back with watercolor paint and paint those shapes in on my castle. So make sure you don't color in on any of these shapes. If you do, the paint won't stick there. And I think I'm just about finished with my work here. I'm so excited to paint. Of course, we've got to review what painting safety will be like. That's so important that we can all be safe and be successful when we paint with watercolor paints. You know, I really like those towers over there. I think I'm going to add just 2 more tall towers to the side of my castle here with rectangles. So now the wax on the crayons forms a barrier, it forms a fence, and all the paint has to stay inside of each one of those shapes. Can't wait to paint with you guys in our next class. Have a great day.